Good day, senior high icons. Welcome to ICI AP My E-Class. I'm Mr. Aldrin G. Sikitin, a faculty of Immaculate Conception Polytechnic Senior High School under the General Academic Strand.
Okay, good day everyone. Today we'll be talking about the introduction to media and information literacy. But before that, let me present the lesson objectives for this lesson. So first, we're going to describe how communication is affected by media and information. Second, we're going to identify the similarities and differences of media literacy, information literacy, and technology literacy. And then next, we're going to weigh the value of being a media and information literate individual. Fourth, we're going to identify the characteristics and describe a responsible use and competent producers of media and information. And then lastly, we're going to discuss the media habits, lifestyles, and preferences. Okay? So first, before anything else, let us talk about communication. So we all know that communication refers to the conversation between people. But let us give communication another meaning. So communication refers to people or group of people imparting or exchanging messages through speaking, writing, gestures, or even using other symbolic forms by utilizing a variety of channels for sending and receiving. Communication plays an essential role in our daily lives. So communication is divided into several types. In oral communication in context, we knew that communication is divided into three types or two types basically. We have the interpersonal and intrapersonal communication. But in media and information literacy, we're going to talk about the three other types, or we're going to focus on these types of communication. So the first one is interpersonal communication. It will be followed by mediated interpersonal communication and organizational communication. So first, let us talk about interpersonal communication. So in this type of communication, people communicate face to face with someone they know or someone who is complete stranger to them. Thoreau defines interpersonal communication as a form of communication that involves two or three individuals interacting through the use of their voices and bodies. And then next, we have mediated interpersonal communication. So there are times where or when someone cannot or need not to talk face to face. So communication becomes mediated through the use of devices such as pen, telephone, or computer. So basically, in mediated interpersonal communication, technology stands between the parties communicating, and it becomes the channel by which the message is sent or received. And then lastly, we have organizational communication. So people communicate differently in a working environment. For example, an email sent by the school principal to all the academic personnel to communicate a new policy. So this message flows through the faculty meetings, memorandum posted on the bulletin boards for the personnel to see or in conferences and seminars. So this type of communication varies on the type of organization where the communicators belong. Okay? And then next we have the 8 elements of communication that constitute the creation of message according to Turo. Okay, so the first one we have the source, or also known as the sender. So the source is where the message came from. It can be a person or an organization. And then next we have the encoding, or the process by which a message is translated so it can be transmitted and communicated to another party. Encoding is how you compose your sentences as you communicate. And then, next we have transmitting. This is the actual act of sending the message. It can be either through the person's vocal cords or facial muscles, complemented with hand gestures if we mean the act of speaking. Okay, and then next we have the channels. So technologies are the lines that enable the act of sending or transmitting. It could be the telephone, the internet voice operated applications, the radio, the television, or the print media to communicate more complex messages. So basically, channels are the things we used when we communicate. Okay, the things we used in order to send the message. And then next we have the decoding part. So the transmitted impulses are converted to signs as the brain perceives and processes it. The reverse of encoding, or the reverse of encoding. Decoding is the process by which the receiver translates the source's thoughts and ideas so they can have meaning. So basically, decoding is the interpretation part, or the part wherein the receiver perceives the message. And then next we have receiver. So the receiver is the one who gets the message that was transmitted through the channels. Like the sender, the receiver can be an individual or an organization. And then next we have the feedback. It is the response generated by the message that was sent to the receiver. It can be immediate or delayed. And then lastly, we have the noise interference. This interference is known as noise or noises. Noise may be treated both literally or figuratively. Literally, it is mechanical sound that perhaps more resonant than the message drowning it. And then in figurative, it can also be referred to as resistance of the intended receiver to the message being sent to his or her direction. So basically, if we are pertaining to the figurative version of noise, it can be an attitude or emotion where the receiver doesn't want to listen or doesn't want to comprehend the message being sent by the sender. So those are the elements of communication based on Turo. Okay, next we're going to talk about media and information literacy. But before that, let us talk about first literacy. So when we say literacy, this is the skill of a person. So that person, or the ability of a person wherein he or she can read and write and do some basic arithmetics. So that is literacy. So media and information literacy, or MIL, represented as the capability to access, analyze, and invent media. It is also a mandatory for people to know their human rights as indicated in Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. So basically, literacy or media and information literacy can be visualized through the use of this cycle. So we have the act, and then followed by access, and then analyze and evaluate, create, and then reflect. It may begin on the access part and then followed by the different stages. So it is a cycle wherein you're going to do something based on how you analyze and evaluate and reflect on the things that you are doing. So let us define the word media. So media is a 21st century advent to education. So basically, media will not be absent anymore on our education or educational endeavor. So media literacy is the understanding to access, analyze, evaluate, reflect, and act using all forms of communication. So basically, you have the ability to access, to analyze, to evaluate, and so on and so forth, using all forms of communication, may it be interpersonal, organizational, intrapersonal, and so on and so forth. So media literate people are better able to figure out the complex message we get from television, radio, internet, newspapers, magazines, books, and all other forms of media. So basically, you can understand messages coming from different sources of information. So media literacy skills can help us to first develop our critical thinking skills. You're able to analyze different situations. Also, you're able to understand how media message shape our culture and society. So basically, you will be able to know how media affects our culture and our society. So you're able to identify target marketing strategies, recognize what media maker wants us to believe or do. So you're able to understand the message of the person who is using the media. Name the techniques of persuasion used in a specific message. Recognize bias, spin, misinformation, and lies. So basically, you will be able to identify truth or fact among the lies. Okay, and then discover the part of the story that are not being told. So you're able to identify what part of story is being hidden, and then evaluate media message based on our experiences, skills, beliefs, and values. Create and distribute our own media message. So you're able to construct your own message and use different forms of media. And lastly, advocate for media justice. So you're able to use media and give justice to these media. And then next, we have the information literacy. So basically, this is the second part or second portion of our lesson or topic. So Information literacy has been called the information age in the beginning of the 21st century because this part or this is the part of human civilization where the explosion of information sources began. So we have so many sources of information. It is a set of skills requiring people to recognize when information is needed and the ability to locate, evaluate, and use effectively the needed information. So basically, we are bombarded of so much sources, and sometimes we are confused in choosing what information or what source to use. So basically, information literacy is the ability to use and analyze information. Okay? So it can be presented using this diagram. So we have the technology, and then upon using that technology, we're going to critically analyze the information gathered, and then we will be doing problem solving wherein we're going to create solution to the problems encountered, and then communicate the solution being the solution we thought, or the solution being provided on the last part, and then synthesize, or we're going to apply that solution and then go back to the sources and share those information. Okay, so basically that is information literacy, the ability to locate, evaluate, and use the information we gathered. And then lastly, we have technology literacy. So technology literacy is the skill of a person working independently with others to responsibility appropriately and effectively uses technology tools to access, manage, integrate, create, and communicate information. So you're able to utilize the technologies presented, or technologies present in our surrounding. So according to the International Society for Technology in Education, technology literacy requires learners to demonstrate skills in several areas, and these are the following. First, we have creativity and innovation. So learners use technology to demonstrate creative thinking, problem solving, and knowledge construction. Second, communication and collaboration. So this is the part where learners use technology to communicate and collaborate in order to enhance their learning or the learning of others. And then next, we have research and information fluency. So learners use technology to find and use accurate and up-to-date information. Fourth, we have digital citizenship. Learners understand what it means to be a citizen in the digital world and practice ethical behavior when they use technology. And then lastly, we have technology operations and concept. Learners illustrate, or this is the part where learners illustrate an understanding of technological system and concepts. So those are the things that you need to know before dealing with the subject media and information literacy. So basically, these information are the foundations of our subject. So these are the things that you need to know before before we discuss the lessons that will follow this one. Okay? So, again, if you have questions regarding today's lesson, so do not hesitate to ask me, or do not hesitate to send your questions on our GC. I'm very willing to answer your queries. Ayan. So again, I'm your MIL teacher. I'm Mr. Aldrin G. Sikitin.